Renting versus buying a home is an important decision that most of us will be faced with at some point in our lifetime. And if it hasn't come up yet, trust me, it's coming. It's a decision that comes with a lot of personal and financial implications. It is not so easy to know which choice is the right decision for you. And I understand that the most knee-jerk reaction is that, of course, buying a home is always a better situation than renting a home. But is that necessarily always true? Is there ever really a decision where renting a home actually makes the most sense? Well, if you ever wondered that, you're in the right place. Because in this video, I'm going to explore all the pros and all the cons that may come up when you put in the two options side by side. And you'll see that this decision is not as easy as you previously may have thought. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Of course, when it comes to housing options, buying a home definitely comes with a lot of advantages. First off, when you buy a home, it allows you to start building equity. And honestly, that's something that may sit at the very top of the list when it comes to benefits. And all equity is the difference between the current value of your home and how much you still owe on your mortgage. So over time, as you make your monthly mortgage payments and the value of your home increases, you gain more and more equity. For example, let's say you purchase your home for $300,000. And over time, your mortgage payments have paid your principal down by $50,000. So you would then owe $250,000 on your mortgage. And let's say at that same time, the value of your home increased to $400,000. What you'll do is you'll take the current value, which is $400,000, and then subtract what you still owe on your mortgage, which is $250,000. So the equity in your home would be $150,000. And you have complete control over that equity even though your home isn't really fully paid off yet. And you can use that equity for future investments like buying additional rental property or maybe even using it as a retirement income. You literally can do whatever you want with it. So you can obviously see why that's at the top of the list when it comes to the benefits you want to look at when it comes to buying a home. Now the next thing buying a home can do for you is to provide you with some form of stability. And trust me, stability is one thing people are really searching for right now. And the reason is because when you rent a home, you're actually at the mercy of your landlord at all times, meaning your landlord could not renew your lease or maybe even raise your rents. And that uncertainty does scare a lot of people. But when you own your home, you have a lot more control over your living arrangements. Of course, obviously you have to pay your mortgage on time, but just as long as you pay your mortgage, no one's going to come kick you out your house. And that mortgage payment is usually predetermined, so you don't have to worry about that amount increasing unexpectedly. Now, another advantage that comes with home ownership are the potential tax benefits you can receive. Because as a homeowner, you may be eligible for tax deductions on your monthly mortgage interest payments and your property taxes, which can help reduce your overall cost. Also, when you own your home, you're allowed to customize it to your liking. Because when you rent, there's a limit to what changes you can actually make to the property. As a homeowner, you have the right to make changes to your property whenever you want without asking a landlord. And this is important because not everyone wants to live in a house that looks the same way it did the first day they moved in. And home ownership gives you that freedom to make those choices. And finally, when you buy a home and you actually pay off that mortgage, you're actually done with your mortgage. There's no more monthly payments due. So that means from that point on, you and future generations will never have to deal with a monthly mortgage payment. And that brings you and your family to an even higher level of security. So you can see there's a very strong case on why you should be buying a home. So now that we have the advantages out the way, now we're going to shift gears and talk about some of the disadvantages that come with home ownership. Because I believe it's really important to consider the downsides as well as the upsides when it comes to making your decision. The first disadvantage is the fact that buying a home can come with a significant requirement for a large down payment. And this can definitely be a deal breaker for many potential buyers, especially to those that don't have a lot of savings or don't have access to affordable financing. Because even if you find your way around the down payment, you're still going to be stuck with an even higher monthly mortgage payment. And things like your down payment, your closing costs, and other fees can add up fast and simply just make home ownership just not affordable for some people. So yes, all the benefits that come with home ownership are amazing, but it doesn't matter if you can't afford to buy a home because all those benefits are totally irrelevant to you. And those that move forward with the home buying process, even though they know they can't afford it, end up becoming what's called house poor. And that's when the cost of home ownership eats up so much of your income, you literally have no money to do anything else. And trust me, you may be able to do it short term, but over the long haul, it's going to dramatically impact your quality of life. Think about wanting to drive to the park just to have an inexpensive day of relaxation with your family, but then you realize you can't even afford the additional gas money to even drive to the park because your budget is so tight because of that mortgage. That's what being house poor can actually look like. And anyone that's been in that scenario will tell you it is no fun at all. And along with that, we can't ignore the fact that home ownership comes with an additional mortgage requirement and repair requirement that sometimes we don't think about. Because when you own a home, you're responsible for all the upkeep. And from fixing a leaky faucet to repairing a roof, it's all on you now. And these costs can add up fast and require both time and money to get it resolved. For example, the average cost to replace a water heater could range from $500 all the way up to $3,000 depending on the size that's required. And for some reason, when you buy a home, it always seems like the water heater is the first thing that breaks on you. And unfortunately, this is right after you just emptied out your bank account to pay for your down payment and maybe the closing costs. So hopefully this doesn't happen to you, but you have to be prepared and understand that this can happen at any time. Now, another disadvantage that comes with home ownership is that it can limit your flexibility. For example, let's say you need to move quickly because of a job offer or maybe some personal reasons. Selling your home may not always be feasible, and if you do, it may take a lot longer than expected. And this lack of flexibility can be a significant downside for some homeowners. So if you buy a home, you want to plan to stay there at least 18 months to 2 years. Another thing you want to consider is that the real estate market can be very unpredictable. And just like other investments, homeowners can actually experience a loss in property value if the market happens to decrease. And while property value generally increases over time, fluctuations in the market can lead to unexpected losses. And this can unfortunately happen at the wrong time when you need to actually sell your home or you want to access some of that equity. And lastly, there may be an opportunity cost that comes with buying a home as well. So let's say you made a $50,000 down payment on your house, but instead of using that money as a down payment, let's say you use that money towards an investment that ended up giving you a larger rate of return than your house would have given you. But because your money was actually used on your down payment, you couldn't make that investment. So the money that you would have made, but you actually didn't get to make, is what's called opportunity costs. Pretty much just saying because you bought A, you missed out on buying B, but B performed better than A. And it doesn't have to be an investment. The same thing can apply for a business. Maybe that $50,000 could have been used to expand your business, and your business could have produced a better return than your home was giving you. So those are a few things you definitely want to consider when it comes to weighing your pros and cons to buying a home. Okay, so now let's talk about renting a house. So renting a house has actually become an increasingly popular option for many people now. And the most clear reason for that is because renting a home requires a smaller upfront financial contribution. And this could be helpful for people that have a limited savings or are not ready to commit to a long-term mortgage payment, because the mortgage commitment could be as long as 30 years. And when you look at renting, usually it only requires a security deposit and maybe the first month rent. And hands down, that makes it a lot more accessible for people. And maybe you just want to rent because you want to buy some time so you can build up your credit, because your credit score not being in the optimal range can cost you thousands of dollars over the life of your mortgage. So renting will allow you to use some of that would-be down payment to knock out a chunk of your debt that's been holding you back the entire time. And this can not only help your credit score, but it will also increase your monthly cash flow, because a lot of that debt that you were paying down is gone. So you have less payments going towards debt, more money staying in your pocket. Another benefit that you can get from renting is it allows you to live in a neighborhood that you're probably not in a financial position to actually buy. And the reason that's so significant is because the area you live in can affect a lot of things in your life, like your commute to work, the scenery, the school your kids go to, or just your overall safety. Because I don't have to convince you that certain areas have better performing school districts. And this can be one way of making sure your kids get the type of education that you actually want them to have. Or maybe you just want to live by the ocean or by the lake, or maybe in a specific community. Or possibly your number one concern is safety and you feel safer in some areas versus others. Whatever your goal is absolutely fine. But all these goals can be accomplished a lot easier and a lot affordable through renting versus buying. And the next benefit is usually appreciated the most by previous homeowners who decided to become renters. And that's the fact that renters are typically not responsible for any major repairs or any major issues that may come up. This is the responsibility of the landlord or the property management company. This means renters can enjoy their living situation without worrying about the financial burden that could come up with something that goes wrong with the home. So in the scenario of renting, if the water heater were to break, the only thing it's going to cost you is the time it takes to either call the owner or the property manager. And that will save you a lot of money and a lot of headaches. Also, when you rent, it allows you more flexibility to move to another home or another location whenever you want. And you won't have to worry about the financial burden of trying to sell a home or worry about who's going to continue to pay that mortgage. And this could be especially helpful for those that need to move frequently, whether it be because of work or for personal reasons. And lastly, some rentals offer amenities like a gym, swimming pool, or maybe a community space that you wouldn't have access to if you were a homeowner. And for some people, these amenities actually make renting a more attractive option. Now, with all that being said about renting, there are some potential downsides you want to consider as well. And one is that, unfortunately, as a renter, you don't build any equity into that house. Essentially, what you're doing is paying for temporary housing with no long-term benefits at all. And with your rent payment, you're actually fully or partially paying the mortgage payment for the actual owner. And that's whether you like them or not. So obviously this could be a major disadvantage for those that want to to build wealth over time, because that money could be paying down your own mortgage every single month versus paying for someone else's mortgage. The next disadvantage is that your rent payment can actually increase annually or after the lease is over. And this could potentially make it difficult to budget or even continue to afford paying the rent over time, because your rent can increase about 5% every single year. So let's say your monthly rent payment is $2,000 a month. The following year, it can increase to $2,100 a month. And the year after that, it can increase to $2,205 a month. And it can continue that pace year after year. So your rent payment can literally start compounding against you, which is not a good thing at all. And this can be especially challenging for those that are living on fixed incomes or who live in areas with high housing costs. So essentially, it'll be like having a mortgage with a variable interest rate that only increased. Because essentially, you may have decided to rent because your monthly payment was lower, just to find out a few years later that what you're paying in monthly rent is higher than what you would have been paying if you had actually bought a house few years back. Another challenge you face with renting is that you can't customize the home, or you can't do any major repairs without the owner's approval. And most owners are not going to want you to mess around with their house. And this can limit your ability to make your space feel like home, or to create a living environment that fits specific needs. And lastly, and this is last, but this is a big one, your landlord can choose not to renew your lease, or they may even decide they want to sell the property, which in both situations means you may have to move unexpectedly. And this lack of stability can be stressful and disruptive, especially if you're trying to create some type of long-term stability with your living situation. Because usually when you move, you want it to be on your terms versus someone telling you you have 30 days to get out. So you can see there are valid arguments for both the renting side and the buying side. But when it comes to making a decision, here's what it really comes down to. The first and most important thing is your financial situation. Are you currently in a financial position where you can afford the down payment, the closing costs, the monthly mortgage payments, and any unexpected things that may come up with the home, repairs, or whatever? And remember, it's not about if the unexpected is going to come up, it's about when the unexpected is going to come up. Because trust me, it will come up. So if you can't potentially afford those things, then it's a very easy decision on what's the best fit for you right now. The next thing you want to consider is how long you actually plan on living there. Because the average break-even point where renting actually becomes more expensive than buying usually happens at the 5 to 7 year range. So if you plan on living in a specific location for long term, then it may be more cost effective if you actually bought it versus trying to rent it. And then you want to look at your lifestyle. When it comes to lifestyle, think about, do you want to live in a specific area that you're probably not ready to buy in? Or maybe you are intrigued by some of the additional features like a gym on location, or maybe a pool or something like that. Or maybe you need the flexibility and need to know that you can move whenever you need to move without it being a big hassle behind it. But overall, what you'll need to do is check the boxes to see which option is most in alignment with your actual goals. And don't be too hard on yourself throughout this process, because any decision you make doesn't have to be permanent. If you buy a home and you find out it's not for you, you can actually sell it. If you rent a home and it's not for you, you always have the option to go buy. You can definitely exercise your right to change your mind whenever you want to. The main key is to be as clear and as knowledgeable in both scenarios before you even decide to move forward in the first place. And that was my overall goal for this video. So I hope it was helpful. Definitely subscribe to the channel for more financial content, and I will see you in the next video.